You're listening to Power Athlete Radio, a podcast dedicated to empowering your performance every damn day. Join former NFL pro and Power Athlete founder John Welbourn as he dissects the greatest minds in strength, conditioning, and more. So whether your goal is to be the hammer, destroy mediocrity, or simply move the dirt, you've come to the right place. Now with the warm-up done, let the gains begin.
Hey, Power Athlete Nation. We have a special episode of Power Athlete Radio in studio with Mr. Mark Rippetoe. He's an American strength coach, author, former power lifter, and gym owner of Wichita Falls Athletic Club in Wichita Falls, Texas. He's best known for his barbell training programs and his series of books, Starting Strength, Basic Barbell Training. He's known for traveling and teaching and being just an incredibly polarizing individual in the world of strength conditioning that tends to be full of polarizing people. Mark is one of those people that's chipped out on the Mount Rushmore of strength conditioning and has done more for developing individuals that are first approaching a barbell with his book, Starting Strength. We've been friends for a number of years through our both involvement in CrossFit in the early days. And we have a excellent conversation where we got to sit down for a couple hours and chop it up. I hope you're as excited to listen to it as I was to do it. Mr. Mark Rippetoe.
Over the 47 years I've been doing this, and I've made every fucking mistake that can possibly be made in a gym. Every single mistake I made. I have made two, just like these people continue to make. But one of my advantages is that I seem to be able to understand, hey, I made a mistake, and this didn't work, and maybe something else needs to be done. So the situation is that all throughout athletics, all throughout from pee-wee football to retiring pro, no one seems to be able to tell the difference between a guy whose training was shit, but he succeeded anyway, and a guy whose training was exactly the way it ought to be, but because of a lack of genetic endowment, nobody knows who he is. Right? I mean, you walk into a locker room full of guys with 32-inch verticals, 32-inch verticals and up, and you are a strength and conditioning coach, and you work with these guys for 4 years. It looks like you know what the hell you're doing, whether you do or not.
It's called the curse of the gifted.
Yes.
Where if you take the world's best athletes, you can have them play a fucking snare drum and they're going to get better.
Right. Exactly the case. And what people do not understand is the strength and conditioning coach didn't build the team. The recruiter built the team. The recruiter is the one that puts the 32-inch verticals in the locker room.
Yeah.
And this is, if you don't recognize that as the primary contributing factor, then you have no ability to discern what to quit doing and what to start doing, because you don't know what's not working. You don't know what the hell's not working.
Well, it's not like
because everything looks like it works.
Well, it's not like you can take somebody with a 20-inch vertical, and we've talked about the vertical jump being a great determining factor for power and generating force and athleticism. But it's not like you can take somebody that has a 20-inch vertical and train them for 4 years into a 32-inch vertical.
No, can't be done.
Yeah,
can't be done. 22 or 20 might go to 23, maybe. But probably not. Probably not. And if the guy walks in off the street with a 32, he's just walking around with a 32-inch vertical, we can do something with him.
Yeah.
And this is why not everybody plays in the NFL. This is all throughout athletics. People want to pretend as though anybody can do high-level athletic performance, and that's absolutely not true.
Are you talking about the athletes or are you talking about the coaches?
I'm talking about not the athletes know better than that. The athletes don't they? They know better than that. But the fans and the coaches and the front office and everybody else is involved in this charade. And it's the same thing as bodybuilding worked off of for 40 years. If you buy this magazine and you do Frank Zane's routine, you're going to look like Frank Zane. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Frank Zane was born Frank Zane, and that's why he looks like Frank Zane. And His training had very little to do with it. And, to the extent that Dorian Yates' training had something to do with his success, it was because the fucking guy was benching sets of 6 and 7 reps with over 500 pounds. Yeah. Incline benching.
Yeah. And he trained in such a style that, like, I don't believe very many people could train. I mean,
No. He was a guy could recover from a whole bunch of tonnage.
But he also wasn't a junk volume guy. Whereas you look at like Arnold. I mean, we had Jay Cutler on the podcast. You know what he did? 4 sets of 12.
Oh, God.
That was it. Everything was 4 sets of 12.
Because he was Jay Cutler.
Well, he's Jay Cutler. He also consumed more calories, and I just think that maybe more anabolic receptors.
Well, that's not even need to be discussed. I mean, that's just assumed. But if you can recover from all of that work, maybe you'll grow a little bit, but it doesn't work as well as sets of 5. And Ronnie and Dorian showed you that.
Yeah.
That big muscles are based on big strength.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. You can't get strong doing sets of 12.
Well, I saw years ago, we watched Blood and Guts, which was Dorian Yates' training video, him in that little fucking hellhole in Birmingham. Mm-hmm. And, you'd always kind of heard the Mike Metzner, Dorian Yates, 1 set to failure. I had, and you're like, how are these guys getting this big off of these 30, 45-minute workouts? And then you're watching Blood and Guts. And there's 5, 6, 7, 8 warm-up sets. He's hitting 135, 225, 315, 405, 500. Mm-hmm. He's doing bent rows at 585. Mm-hmm. Shit, he had 5 or 6, 7 sets building up to it. Right. And then all of a sudden he has his final die on the sword set where he's hitting 7, 8, 9. And then he goes back, a couple days later and he's hitting it for an extra rep. And so he's doing progressive overload.
Right.
He's either hitting more reps or the minute he hit a rep deal, he added weight to the bar. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's not 1 set to failure.
No.
You're just building up to a final
it's a
maximal
bunch of
set.
Tonnage.
Yeah.
Now, not all of it's work set tonnage.
It's all one, yeah.
But it's all a bunch of tonnage, and none of it was 12s. Was it?
I think he might have hit some upper rep ranges, but it was just because he was trying to get as many as he could.
At the end of a peak, and then he came back. But he didn't He didn't do all of his work at sets of 12.
And that was what blew me away. At Jay Cutler on the podcast, and he's like, I just did 4 sets of 12 of every movement. And I was like, well, and then I was like, were the weights heavy? And he's like, well, maybe not heavy for me, but then I'm watching things. I mean, they're fucking monstrous weights, but he was an absolute monster as well.
Yeah.
But
big, huge guy.
Yeah. I mean, he felt that the food was the biggest driving factor. Whereas, Dorian was like, oh, yeah, you got to eat and this. But, I mean, he felt that it was the training that drove him into what. Right. So it's amazing. But, I mean, those guys, they're genetic freaks.
They're not representative of the population. And it's a mistake to think that you can that you can pick anybody at the elite level and train like them and have their success. That is what has been sold for decades. And it's bullshit. It's complete, absolute bullshit.
So when I came to CrossFit, one of the questions I kept getting from people was, what did you do for your training? I want to follow your training. And I remember asking this guy, like, why? Why would you want to do my training? Because how do you know that it's going to respond the same way for me that it did for you, or for you for me? And then, I really got this from you, and I still, to this day, credit you for this, because at the end of the day, I stand on the shoulders of giants. And I'm always fucking pissed off in this, performance world where everybody's trying to steal shit. Mm-hmm. Your approach about training people based upon their level of exposure with an amateur novice progression and then moving into an intermediate advanced athlete. Whereas, everybody's selling a program like, here you go, and it's cookie.
Everybody does the same thing. And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And what we've proved is that there's a very real window, and building upon, the information from your book and what, we've been friends for what's it been, like 15 years
Something
now?
like that, yeah.
But you remember when I came out and we went over and designed those templates and talked about this novice amateur progression and this basic linear progression working for this unadapted nervous system. And we've gotten so many people strong in this novice window.
John, you have popularized this training advancement curve at least as much as we have. And it's, what amazes me is nobody else seems to recognize this.
No. And
it's bizarre. You take a kid off the street who's never trained before, and All you do is go up 5 pounds of workout on his squat for 6 months, and suddenly you've got a 405 squat.
We've seen it.
Works every single time it's tried. And if you aren't doing that, you're wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
And you and I know that, and nobody...
But that's
at
good,
the collegiate level seems to understand.
But that's good because we look like fucking geniuses.
Yes, we do.
But the biggest thing is I always go back and credit you with it. I mean, it's why we've been friends all these years. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, I sat with Mark Rippetoe because when CrossFit approached me, it had been so long since I was a beginner, and on top of it, the training I did was fucking garbage in comparison. I wish I had had this linear progression. You know, we went in and, Zangus had us doing singles, doubles, and triples.
Right.
And, I got no fucking nervous system, no ability to squat singles, doubles, and triples.
No.
And then I'd go.
Most people don't.
And then we would leave. And
Zangus was a great powerlifting coach.
Yes.
And what no one seems to understand, especially powerlifters, is that what you and I do is not powerlifting. It is strength training.
Yep.
It is not the same thing. Powerlifting and strength training are not the same thing, boys and girls.
Yeah.
Olympic lifting and strength training is certainly as hell not the same thing.
You told me years ago.
Strongman and strength training is not the same thing.
Well, strongmen use strength training, and Olympic weightlifters use strength training.
If they're smart, they do.
But as I remember you told me years ago, Olympic lifting is a shitty way to get strong.
You can't do it. It's the least efficient way. You can't do it. You can't do it. That's why we have a bunch of drugs in Olympic weightlifting and have for 50 years. Because although Olympic lifting requires that you be strong, if all of the coaches insist that you not deadlift because it's slow and not do back squats with max weight and that all you do is snatch, clean, jerk, and front squat, well, you can't get them strong that way. So you have to get them strong some other way. So what way do they get you strong? Dianabol and testosterone.
Well,
works every time.
So we're seeing the same thing in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
What I really think, and the reason that the sport is so dirty with the drugs, is because they are making up for the deficit of not knowing how the fuck to train.
Any sport that is dirty with drugs is a sport that doesn't train the deadlift and the squat.
Well, they just don't know any of the barbell movements, and they don't know how to do it.
Look at baseball.
Yeah.
Look at baseball. How many of those guys had to go sit in front of a Senate committee in front of John McCain and try to act like they weren't doing steroids?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's just that. Why would you want to put yourself in a position like that? You know, why don't you just get up off your lazy ass and deadlift and squat and go up 5 pounds on those exercises every workout until it quits working?
And then we got to pivot. I mean, that's why, we use our Bedrock program, which is based off of your novice progression. And then when all of a sudden it ends, and we tell people this won't last forever. A tree won't grow to sky. Right. It'll end. And then you know what? Then we pivot.
And then we'll get complicated. But until then,
it's the simplest, most effective way to get really fucking strong.
And what they don't understand is that would have worked for Barry Bonds. The same novice approach. He'd never done this. If you've never done a novice progression, then you find out how much you can squat, press, bench, and deadlift.
I think it's ego.
And you need to do some power cleans. Of course, it's ego.
No, it's ego because
but if you find out where you are, and then the next time you come in on the deadlift and the squat, you go up 10 pounds.
Yeah.
3 sets of 5, 10 pounds. Do that for 2 weeks, and then start going up 5 pounds. It will work even for an elite athlete in a sport that has never gone through that process. And this is what they don't understand. Yeah. Or you're right. This is what they don't want to be seen doing.
It's I think that there is like a smoke and mirrors deal. And we see it too with like the programming and all the information. Everybody wants to be the expert. And I think it's crazy. It's why I've always talked about the people I've trained with, the conversations I've had, where this information comes from. Because at the end of the day, it looks just disingenuous and it looks ridiculous when people start claiming a bunch of shit that they didn't create. Mm-hmm. The linear progression, when we came out and we explained it, I went home and I actually tested it. And we tested it in our gym, and I watched these people squat 185 pounds for a single, for a set of 5, and all of a sudden, 5 pounds, 10 pounds going up every week, and all of a sudden you're looking out there and you're like, holy fuck, that guy's got 405 on that bar.
Guy's got 405.
And
He's never even thought about 405
26
before.
weeks later. After resets and
works
this.
every time. Yeah. Works every time, because how would it not work?
We started incorporating either dynamic pulls or plyometrics or jumps to take over, if they didn't want to do power cleans. Because you got to have something to
You got to have something to keep your explosive capacity in line with your increasing strength.
Yep.
Now, and we have never said that the power clean increases your vertical jump. We've never said that the power clean increases your ability to explode, because that is so thoroughly controlled by your genetics that there's not any point in pretending that can happen. But what the power clean and the jumps, high pulse, whatever you want to do on the vertical. I like the power clean because it's quantifiable.
Yeah.
Did you rack it on your shoulders or not?
Yeah.
But the explosive work with the barbell is for the purpose of keeping your ability to display an explosion under load equivalent to your increasing strength. As you get stronger, you need to explode with more weight, and that's what that's for. But we don't pretend that it increases neuromuscular efficiency, because it doesn't. In terms of standing vertical jump, all right. If you walk in the gym the first day of training with a 32-inch vertical, and you hadn't squatted before, and you're a kid that's 18 years old, you weigh 175, 185 pounds, you're going to squat 225 the first day. Whereas a kid with a 20-inch vertical is going to squat 115 the first day. You're already stronger because you're recruiting more motor units into contraction just walking around. Now, this is terribly important. This is terribly important because this is how you sort for elite ability. Elite ability is sorted for by standing vertical jump because it's an indicator of neuromuscular efficiency. And you cannot improve neuromuscular efficiency. The best strength program in the country never improves standing vertical jump more than 25%. And most of them are 15, 16, 17, 18% improvement. That's all. That's all. Whereas if you take a kid off the street that day and you with a 22-inch vertical jump, and you get his squat from 115 to 405 in 9 months, which you can do, you have increased his power because of the algebra. But you did it with the variable on top of the little bar instead of the one at the bottom of the little bar, the T thing, which doesn't go up very much. So, do you know how much of strength you do? How much strength and conditioning is complete bullshit. This rate of force development training is a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time, because if you are not getting your squat up to 405, then you are missing out on training the most trainable variable of the three in the power equation. T's not trainable. T's born. F, force production on top, is trainable. And if your strength coach doesn't know how to do that, that's a problem. Right?
No, strong is better.
Strong is always better.
When we came to CrossFit, I remember when they first pitched me on this. Remember, strength was just one of the 10 elements of fitness.
Yes, I do remember that.
I remember telling them,
very clearly,
dude, strength is the platform at which everything's built upon. So there's not 10 elements of fitness. No. Strength is the platform that you build the other 9 on. When you're strong, you can handle more load. You can do things. Stronger people have always been a better. And I've played against some incredibly gifted athletes. And at the end of the day, the guys that were stronger, when it came down and athleticism was matched, the stronger athlete, it's like, between two athletes, the fastest guy is going to be more successful in the field. Sure. The same thing in playing my job. When everything is equal, the guy that's stronger and it can generate more force and hit, like all of a sudden, those become the deciding factors.
Well, that list of 8 attributes or 10 or whatever the hell it was from a strength and conditioning, no, he's from a track coach down here in Central Texas someplace. Yeah. I don't remember the guy's name, but he seemed to think
that wasn't Dan Path, was it? Was it Dan Path that did those elements?
That doesn't sound familiar. Okay. No. But CrossFit seized on that. That's one of the biggest problems with their methodology, is they didn't understand that you have to prioritize strength because everything else is dependent upon force production.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
As Glassman told me, I virally destroyed CrossFit by convincing everybody they needed to be strong, not elite.
Well, he didn't. I thought I'd got credit for that.
What
I'm
we
not
did.
as tall as you are.
Well, you know what it is I dropped strength templates into CrossFit workouts through the CrossFit football deal.
Right.
And so, in a way, we just because you were teaching strength, I showed them how to add the CrossFit piece in. So I think I just added a little bit to the pie. Yeah, but we were equally hated.
Oh yes, good. Couldn't be better hated by a better bunch of people. Oh God. But it's absolutely amazing the lack of appreciation for the genetic predisposition component to athletic performance is completely misunderstood. While at the same time, every human being on the planet has the potential to improve their force production capacity. Everyone. Everybody's grandmother. Everybody's uncle. Everybody can get stronger. Everybody can get stronger. And all you have to do is go up 5 pounds of workout. And it works every single time it's tried. The starting strength gyms.
So let's take a step back. So a couple years ago, you were approached by one of your, starting strength coaches about potentially opening up satellite locations for starting strength. And he came in with a pretty amazing idea of one, let's put them in retail locations.
Right.
Make sure they're all branded, not huge, boxes, but very efficient, smaller
1,600
locations.
square feet.
Right. And then building it on personal training, not like open gym.
Right.
And so people come in, they pay their fee. Everyone's coached, but you also went after a different demographic. You weren't looking for the 18 to 26-year-old athlete.
They don't have any money.
Yeah. You were looking for the 50-plus individual that was looking to build strength to increase the efficacy and really just the quality of their lives.
The way I summarized the demographic was we're looking for 55-year-old guys who use Viagra, who still want to be physical. That's who we're looking for. We're looking for 55-year-old guys with chronic low back pain that use Viagra. Because we could fix chronic low back pain in 3 weeks, goes away, never comes back.
It's amazing.
In 3 weeks. And the guy's interested enough in his physical ability that he's taking Viagra. And compared to that, what's $455 a month?
Sure.
We hand him his manhood back, to use an antiquated term. We hand him that back. And he appreciates that.
Yeah.
He appreciates that.
So you started with one location.
We
as
started
kind of a
with
test.
a location here in Austin. We had some problems with that at first. And we have turned that around to where the Austin location is the #1 performing gym in the country.
Wow.
We've got 21 gyms in the country.
Are they all?
We have 35 of them sold. We got 14 in various stages of development.
So are these independent owner operators, or are you guys partnered with them?
We are not partnered with them. We are a franchise company.
Okay.
So we're completely different to CrossFit in that it's not an affiliate program at all. You build your gym the way we tell you to do it. You use our trade dress, our equipment, our logos, our training methods. You staff your gym with starting strength coaches. Everything is standardized, and we're trying to do McDonald's with effective barbell training. That's what we're trying to do, so that you walk into a starting strength gym anywhere in the country and you get the same program and the same eyeballs on your squat, the same form corrections for your deadlift, press, and bench press, and the same equipment, same corrections and coaching for your power clean. And we do all of that, and it's tightly regulated. We're trying to standardize quality control, and this is a problem.
Yeah,
this is a problem. You've just got different brains and different eyes and different levels of experience.
Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, I had a conversation about this the other day with somebody when I was, and you've taught seminars long before you got involved in CrossFit, but just the amount of people that we worked with. I mean, that first year I taught 36 seminars. We all over the world. I mean, we went in and it was anywhere from 25 to 50 new people every single weekend. Right. And it was like every 4 weeks we were on the road 3, and you end up working with just tens of thousands of athletes and teaching them the basic barbell movements, going through this. And all of a sudden you develop an incredible, like almost clairvoyant skill set to where I can watch somebody approach a bar and know exactly how many times that they've squatted. Oh yeah, no, I've been squatting for years. I can watch them approach and watch their setup and know whether or not they're full of shit or not.
Right. No, you can, and you get a feel for this.
But there's
after having watched tens of thousands of reps.
I remember watching a video with you years ago. We watched a cut up that had to be fucking hundreds of people pulling a bar off the ground from the side. And you said to me, the bar does not come off the ground to the minute that all of a sudden, if it starts on the crease, all of a sudden here. And regardless of where you start, the bar won't come off until you get in this position. So that's where we're going to start. And when you've seen hundreds, if not thousands of people to do it, you develop a certain skill set.
Right.
And this is something that we struggle with, and you're struggling through with your coaches because there's no way to replicate that.
No, there's not. You have to know the angles when you see them.
Yeah.
There are a set of angles that you coach. And what people don't understand is the back angle is not one of them.
Well,
it's
always going to change.
The back angle changes with anthropometer.
Yeah, and if they're short-legged, long torso, it's going to be real vertical. If they're long-legged, short torso, it's going to be real flat.
But their shoulders are always going to be in front of the bar,
and that bar is going to sit under that crease of the armpit.
And the bar is going to be right over the middle of the foot every single time, or it won't come off the ground if it's heavy enough.
Yep.
Now, if it's light enough, it can, because snatch can come off the ground anywhere because it's not a max pull. A clean can come off the ground almost anywhere because it's not a max pull. So if you're looking at Taranenko do 266 from 1988, the bar came off the ground forward of the midfoot about that far. And then the first thing it did was come back.
Yep, you had to pull it back.
To the point where you could pull on it hard, which is directly over the midfoot. Every single heavy clean and jerk shows the same curve off the floor. Now, it's not curved off the floor because it's supposed to be curved off the floor. It's curved off the floor because it's an artifact of him trying to pull it forward to where he should.
Yeah.
And all we're saying is just pull it over the middle of the foot.
Yeah.
And that way you have longer through the vertical bar path to accelerate the bar. And if you do it like that, it will go higher. We've got video after video demonstrating this very thing where people learned how to squat USAW style with the bar over the toes, and then the back angle sweeps back in. And finally, the bar gets, after it moves 6 inches up in the air, it's over the middle of the foot. And then we compare those pulls with our pulls, and we see who pulled the bar higher. And guess what happens every single time? We pull the bar higher. Always. With everybody.
Yeah, but you're not an Olympic lifting coach.
No, well, I was. See, this is what we don't.
No, I'm just fucking taking shots at you.
I know. I just want to tell our friends here, I was the president of the North Texas weightlifting committee for the LWC, we called them, which is the way USAW is organized. I was the president of the USA of the USAW. I started back when it was U.S. Weightlifting Federation. USW. USAW's North Texas LWC for 12 years. I sanctioned all the meets and did all the Olympic lifting in North Texas for a long time. I've been an Olympic lifting coach since 1989. And I don't want to hear this bullshit about I don't know what the hell I'm talking about with Olympic weightlifting, because that's just not true.
So how did you get into this?
How I get into this shit right here?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, so
yeah, the whole deal.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost a fight when I was 19. I didn't lose it bad, but I lost it bad enough to where I thought to myself, I'll start getting stronger.
Was it like like in the back of the magazine where the bully or the guy kicked sand in his face?
No, it wasn't bad. No, it wasn't a kick sand in the face kind of thing. It
like
was just
you remember those in the back?
Yeah.
What was it? Yeah.
That was Charles Atlas.
Yeah, Charles Atlas.
Charles Atlas, he made a bunch of money.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it wasn't a Charles Atlas deal, but it was a wake-up call. You know, I needed, and I started off just exactly like everybody else starts off, not knowing a goddamn thing about what I was doing. And I started up at the weight room, and I didn't know anything about it.
Was this in Wichita Falls?
It was in Wichita Falls. I didn't know anything about it. I just went up there and played around on the machines. And I trained pretty hard, but I really wasn't training. I was just exercising with the machines and everything. And I fell in with a guy that didn't know anything more about it than I did, although he was a professor at school there. And then I hooked up with Bill Starr in the summer of 1979.
How did that happen?
And, well, the way it happened was his daughter lived in Wichita Falls. His family had lived here. And his daughter, Christy Lou, lived here in Wichita Falls, and she got hurt in the tornado in 1979. In April of 79, we had a great big giant F5 tornado in Wichita Falls, tore up 25% of the buildings in town. Bad, bad tornado. And so he was here taking care of her, and he was up at the college weight room, and I ran into him a couple of times up there, and he kind of took me under his wing. And he and I became good friends, and we're good friends the rest of his life. And he taught me a lot of stuff. And I kind of took that and ran with it. But I've started working in the gym business. I think I started in the gym business in 78, actually, because I had started fooling around with this back about 76 or 7.
Well, for those of you guys that don't know, go to Google and look up Bill Starr, and he wrote a training manual called "The Strongest Shall Survive."
Yes, that was
which is if
the,
you can
the first book of its type.
Yeah, if you have the opportunity to buy it, I still own it.
Yeah, it's a groundbreaking thing. It's
incredible,
seminal text. It was, and a lot of people want to say, well, starting strength is just strongest shall survive. No, it's not. It bears no resemblance to strongest shall survive at all.
Well, yeah, the cover. Well, that cover was blue. Your cover's not blue.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my cover's blue. But it's a different. It's a different.
It's different shade of blue.
Different shade of blue.
But Bill Starr was one of the very first strength coaches. I think it was in Hawaii. Was his first job, as I remember.
He was the strength coach at the University of Hawaii. He was strength coach at Baltimore Colts for a couple of years, back when they were in Baltimore, and worked with some freak athletes. He was at York Barbell during a period of time when a lot of those extremely talented lifters were at York Barbell. He was the guy that coached Ken Patera. Yeah. And he told me a couple of times that Ken Patera, as far as he was concerned, Ken Patera was the strongest strength athlete the United States ever produced.
Yeah.
And I've got a picture on the wall of the gym of Patera doing a push jerk with 518. So there's that.
Yeah.
You know.
And then he got into professional wrestling for those guys that don't know Ken Patera.
And Ken Patera he's still alive, I believe, but I sure would like to talk to him about his training, but he's not real big on granting interviews. But the guy was, I've seen some of his training notes. And he was a scary motherfucker, man. That guy was, oh God almighty, the stuff he could do. And he could just eat tonnage alive.
Yeah.
Just didn't bother him to do sets across for 600 pounds.
What about who was the big dude with the mustache? Doug Young?
Doug Young was Starr knew him, but he never coached him. Doug lived in Brownwood, Texas, which is just over there.
Yeah.
Tucker, most of his life.
Tucker lives in Brownwood.
Oh, he does.
Mm-hmm.
It's Doug lived over there. His brother Bob lived down in Houston somewhere, and Bob had played in the NFL for a while. Yeah. Doug never played in the NFL. He was just a big power lifter. I watched him. Me and a couple other guys drove down to Dallas a long time ago to watch Doug bench over 600. Now this is before shirts.
Yeah.
He did that night. He did 606 in a t-shirt, weighing about 275. And I don't know that there are many people in the world capable of doing that right now, but I'm sure there are more than there were then. But
we have Instagram, we have social media, so I mean, everybody does that on the
everybody
weekend.
does 600.
Everybody's mentioned 600 these days.
Deal. Yeah, our guy, kid Chase Lindley, did 405 standing press, 405 at 245 body weight.
Wow.
And all the comments on the internet said, it's just a standing bench press, because he had a layback. That's just a standing bench press. Which means, of course, that anyone can do a standing bench press with 405.
405 fucking standing press is pretty legit.
Yeah, that's legit.
So,
and he was 21.
Yeah, at my best, I pressed. It was 315 pounds. It was it was at your starting strength seminar at McKenzie's gym.
Yeah.
And so that was my best. But
yeah,
I was 300
I
pounds.
remember that, believe it or not, because nobody's done that since.
Yeah.
At one of my seminars.
But I also had a over 500-pound bench.
So, that helps.
Yeah, that does help.
That helps. If they're not as related as you'd think they would be, though, they're really not. And if you've got a big bench, you may not have a big press. If you've got a big press, you may not have a big bench. But it helps. Everything helps like that.
We interrupt this episode with a shameless self-promotion. Are you pushing through performance roadblocks caused by pain or janky movement mechanics? Knock the rust off with our movement health courses, used by thousands of athletes worldwide, from average Joes to MVPs. Our courses give you the tools to assess and fix yourself so you can get back to break-in necks and cash in checks. Not convinced? Get a taste of how our courses can help you by enrolling in a free sample today. Head to powerathletehq.com and search courses from the menu. Now back to the show.
What we have been doing, I guess probably over the past 10 years, I have reduced the number of exercises that we use radically, because I saw the effects of watering down a strength program with exercise variety in CrossFit. And what we are doing at this point in time is, for the vast majority of people, we use 6 exercises. Vast majority of people. We squat, we press, we bench press, we deadlift, we clean, and we do chins. And that's all. I've got RDLs in the book. I've got all kinds of shit in the book that we don't use anymore, because it's just not necessary for the vast majority of people, because the vast majority of people are intermediates or novices.
Yeah.
And since we don't work with a bunch of athletes, we just pretty much confine ourselves to those basic exercises.
Well, and also,
here's the other thing we've started doing. We have started looking at strength training not from the standpoint of what's available to use in the gym, but from the standpoint of what are the basic human movement patterns that could be done bilaterally with a load. And there are only a few. There is squatting down and standing back up. There is picking something up off of the floor. There's pushing something up over your head. There's pushing something away from you. There's pulling something toward you. And there's throwing something. And if you look at it from the standpoint of these movement patterns, and now these are the basic human movement patterns that you can use with heavy weights.
Yeah, I know. We call them primal movements.
Yeah, and it's these things are loaded with a barbell, and that's strength training. And everything else is bullshit. Everything else are just exercises.
Well, I do like unilateral movements.
Yeah, I know you do. But we'd eventually disagree on
But
something.
I also train a different population than you do.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So,
I know.
And you know what? There can be 2 completely separate methodologies based upon individual pools of people.
Yeah.
Like for the
Right.
pool in which you're working,
but
this is the most efficient deal that you found. And so for me to just be like, well, what do you mean? I'm like the fact that people cannot see somebody else's perspective and realize, okay, who are you working with? What's available to you? And what is the minimal or the maximal output that I can get for the minimal input?
Right.
And for you figured out efficiency.
Well, we've figured out efficiency for people who are not athletes.
Yeah.
Because that's who we train, is people who are not athletes.
That's
now,
why it's called starting strength.
We want to go from
and that's
what
why it's
we
called,
do to athletics.
And that's why it's called power athlete.
That's why you're power athlete. We're two different. But we've got slightly separate, slightly different approaches, but they're both based on the same thing.
Yeah.
Force production.
Yeah.
Force production is strength.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. How do you most efficiently produce force?
And to steal one of yours, power is defined as your ability to display your strength dynamically.
That's right.
And I still tell people my definition, which I got from you.
It's this power is strength displayed quickly.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And the stronger you are, the more you can display it.
Yeah.
And this is why that F times D over T thing is so critical. If you understand that, then you understand that rate of force development training is a waste of time until you're stronger. And even then, if you're a talented athlete, you're already able to display force quickly.
Yeah.
And if you're not able to display force quickly, you're not going to be performing at the elite level in athletics. And that's just all there is to it.
And you know what? And
that's fine.
Well,
Too,
it's because it's the world's biggest meritocracy. You
right.
know,
exactly.
Playing in the NFL and playing in major league, major sports, or like, like what Victor did a couple weeks ago, competing and winning. It's a meritocracy. There's no way that you can get to that point without doing the work and being the best in the world.
You cannot bullshit your way into the NFL. People don't understand.
Well, why is that?
They're not Tom Brady.
Well, is it because like the social media and the internet and like, magazines, what they're doing is they're trying to sell everybody that you too, if you do this, you can be a Fortune 500 CEO and a Hall of Fame football player.
I'm convinced. Once it gets back to the lack of appreciation for the genetic component of the performance. These people are born; they're not trained. Tom Brady is a movement genius. He's a magician.
Yeah, with the ball
on the field. He's a magician, and you are not. Those of you guys that think you're going to be, you may be a good high school football player, but you're not a fucking magician.
Well, I mean, for me, I was fortunate to play 10 years in the NFL.
You're a magician, but these guys, you might get in and play 2 years and get out and make a little money in the process. But Tom Brady, my God, do you remember Fran Tarkenton? You remember watching that fat old man run around in the backfield and not anybody be able to touch him?
Or do you remember
he's a magician?
Or you remember Kenny Stabler taking his hair, full head of gray hair, and he's out there, and he's 5 years younger than Tom, and Tom's out there looking great. It's
just amazing.
There's I forget the guy's name. His handle's Duke, and he has something called O-line. What's it called? O-line mastery. But he trains a bunch of offensive linemen up in Dallas. And he has a kind of a summit that I think is going to happen here at the end of the month or in July. So he invited me to come, and reached out. Hey, I'd love to have you come. Would you? And I was like, you know what? I'm in town that weekend. I'd love to drive up because I'm always. It's always fun to go to things like that and see guys. I think Willie Rope was there last year, and I hadn't seen him since Tony's Hall of Fame deal. So I'm kind of interested to see who shows up. But it's always fun to talk to these young guys and even see the old guys in this. But it's such a very few amount of people are able to do that job and do it well. And the people that are.
Especially for 10 years.
And
my God. How many NFL offensive linemen play for 10 years?
Well, this is the interesting thing.
You got to know that number.
No, but here's the thing. If you can do the job and you can do it at a high level, you can do it for a long time. So really? Probably the number, and think about this. All these guys, Will Shields didn't miss a play for 14 years. Willie Ruff. I mean, all these guys that play, like that, they play for a long time.
Walter Payton. I mean, how long did Walter Payton play?
Well, look at Barry Sanders. I mean, look at these guys. I mean, there's some of the best athletes, but it's fun to go chop it up, especially with these young guys, and like see them at the beginning of their journey, and hopefully you give them some sage advice that helps them. But what's interesting is when I was watching some of the clips, when the older guys get up and talk about like, hey, like this is the way I understood, and they understand their skill set. And the reason that the guys that are able to play for a long time, what they've done is they've assessed and they know who they are, and they have a unique skill set that they can implement on the field. And I think the issue with most people is if you don't have that skill set, right? Even if you do, if you're not 6'5", I mean, thank God I'm, just a hair under 6'6", and pretty, was able to weigh 300 plus pounds. Like, unless you even meet those statistics, you're not even getting to the party. And then you got to have athleticism, and then you got to have, this, and
so
you got to have
several requirements stacked on top of each other that even put you there in the first
and
place.
you got to have the luck to avoid the injury. Right. So I mean, there's so many things that go into it. I remember, it had to be about 10 years ago. I was at a deal with the NFL, and Troy Vincent, who I played with at the Eagles, got up and he said, in the last, since the beginning of the NFL, they've had about 40,000 guys that played in the NFL. It's probably more now, obviously, and less than 1,000 of those guys had played longer than 4 years.
Wow!
And as he went through the names, all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Oh shit, I played against. So it was, this was 10 years ago.
How many played offensive line for 10 years?
Man, it was like in maybe like the 300s. So maybe, I mean, it's not a big,
tiny number.
Yeah. And well, I mean, it's different today because after the CBA in 2009, they changed the game. You all of a sudden got Junior Seau shooting himself, and you got guys killing themselves. They had to change the game. So after that CBA in 2009, they only get like 5 padded practices a year. So what they did is they removed all of the hitting out of training camp and all the hitting during the season. So what you're seeing now, where people are talking about like the NFL players are getting bigger, they're getting stronger, and they're getting faster, they're not. Right? They're still the same. The problem is that they removed all of the training load in practice and training camp, so that when the players are playing now, they can be bigger and faster and stronger because they're more healthy. So when I went to training camp in '99 with Andy Reid, first year in Philly, we had 42 days in training camp. So we had about a 2.5, 3 hour practice in the AM. We'd come back and have another 2.5 hour practice in pads the whole time. And then the next morning we'd be in pads again, and then we'd have a special teams. So in 2 days we would have 3, and if you had to go to special teams, 4. And we did that for 42 days. Right. So we called it a baton death march, right? Yeah. We had a buy-in preseason. So technically,
how many made it through that?
Not very many. But the crazy part is I probably saw more hitting in that training camp than a guy who goes in and plays in the NFL today will see in 10 years.
In the camp.
Right. Think about 5 padded practices and then 16 games. So, or 17 games, let's say. So what, like 21 legit hitting days? Shit, we had 42 my rookie year. And then I played for Dick Vermeil that did the same thing. 3 hour. I mean, Dick Vermeil had a team revolt against him at the Rams who tried to walk off saying, you can't fire us all because of the practices. And then I played for Dick. And it was like 3 hour practices hitting in this. I remember when 2009 came and the new CBA hit, I remember Tony Gonzalez called me and said, we could have played 20 years. Tony played 17. He's like, if this didn't come, I could not have played as long as I did. He's like, the amount of hitting we did, these kids will never see it. So the NFL is getting faster. The guys are getting bigger, and they are hitting harder. And it's not because the athletes are
because
improving.
They're not using them up in training camp.
Because they're not killing them.
Right.
They're not beating the shit out of them.
Right.
But I'll tell you, a kid today who plays 10 years will probably have less volume than I had in my first training camp. I mean, it was 1-on-1, 9-on-7, inside run, full pass, 3 hours. Like the amount of hitting that we did, it was, I mean, fucking gashes in the head, the whole deal. And it's just how we did it. And we did that for years. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they change it and they're like, oh, these athletes are getting, these guys are so, they're just not fucking banged up. They're healthy and they can train. And they're still training. It's not like they're like go into the training camp or into the training room like for fucking triage after a killer practice. These dudes are probably like getting off the field and still doing all their performance training where like most dudes didn't lift weights because they physically couldn't.
Because they couldn't.
Yeah. So it's just, it's just a different deal, but they had to change because you got dudes. I mean, so when a dude shoots himself in the heart and leaves a note saying, I'm killing myself, look at my brain, something is wrong. They got to make a fucking change. And that's what happened. And then, when Junior passed away and killed himself, that was like the moment that, because I mean, Junior Seau gave me my welcome to the NFL moment.
Oh, good.
And, to see him and to know like that deal was just insane. But it's, It's an amazing game, and I'm sad that they had to kind of change it, but I was glad that I got to play in the generation in which I did at the tail end of this and into that piece. So it was cool for that. But it's also,
you had a completely different experience than these guys now have, and I don't know which one's better. You know, if you play tired and you don't get hurt because the other guy's tired too, is that better, or is it better to play healthy and take that one shot?
Yeah, I don't know.
That puts you on your ass.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of like you jump in a brand new race car that doesn't have the motor broken in. There's a good chance you're going to blow at a post from if you've had a bunch of runs under it. You know, I was going to ask you, you have a strange affinity for interesting cars.
I have a strange affinity for, interesting cars. All right, we'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am completely blown away by the cars that you're into and the way that you modify them. Because we've talked on this podcast many times. I'm into cars. I weld, I fabricate, and I build shit. Yeah. And I have an appreciation for horsepower and motors. But yours is kind of in non-conventional type of vehicles.
Well, I've got a couple of trucks with 5.9 Cummins diesels in them.
Which I love.
Those are all right, but they're not as trouble-free as everybody thinks they are. But they do pull like motherfuckers.
All P-pump trucks are all
the 5.9 diesel.
Well, I know the 5.9 diesel, but the 12 valves, the P-pump trucks, are you into like the common rails 5.9s? Like what year?
This is 0405.
Okay, those are common rails.
Yes.
You saw my blue flatbed.
What year model is that?
That's a 05 G50 or G56 manual. I got that single cab. I don't know if you saw it sitting underneath the tree.
That's a Dodge?
Yeah, it's a Dodge 05.
I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah. I'll show you.
I'll have to look at that. But this is the ones I've got are double cab 05, 6-speed.
Yeah, manuals.
Well, it's nothing else is a truck as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And my two cars, I've got a Porsche. I've got a 997, an 05 model 997, which is the 911 Carrera S.
Yeah.
And that's a nice little fucking car. I'm telling you, that thing is bought it from a buddy of mine, and it's got 135,000 miles on it. I just had to put some money in it. You know, it's time for water pump and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then my other car is the one you're talking about, which is an 08 model M6. Now this car it's a BMW M6, which is the 6 Series. It's the 2-door coupe. And that thing came stock with a 5-liter V10 engine. And it was normally aspirated. There's no supercharger, no turbo, anything on this thing. And
manual transmission, right?
Manual transmission. They only made 323 manual transmissions.
Is it
from 05 to 10?
Is it BMW's manual, or did they use Mercedes or some more?
It's a BMW. Okay. At the time we're making a 6-speed manual transmission.
I didn't even know they made a 6-speed manual.
It's there. They quit making 6-speed manuals, I believe, after 2010. BMW hadn't put a 6-speed manual or manual transmission of any kind in a car since 05.
Yeah.
They're all automatics.
Yeah.
But this thing got an engine builder up in he's in Indiana right now. He moved from Michigan to Indiana, and he built I bought the car from him, and he put a 6-liter stroked V10 in that thing. The previous iteration of that motor was making 705 horsepower at the wheels in a 3,700-pound car.
This is the 6-liter.
This is the 6-liter.
NA.
And no boost or anything. And it is normally aspirated 6-liter, making 705 horsepower at the wheels. But that engine was a 13.5 to 1 compression engine.
So for those of you guys that don't know compression, that 13.5 to 1, you got to run some very expensive race gas in that.
You have to run race gas in it, but in lieu of race gas, if you put a methanol kit on it, you're fine.
Yeah.
Now, I went to Dallas to have some work done on that car, and the shop disconnected my methanol kit, and the motor blew up.
Yeah, well, fuck, dude. If you didn't have enough, with the compression that high, if you don't have enough detonation, you're going to smoke it.
It's just, and they're supposed to know this.
Yeah.
But their attorneys educated them about it.
Yeah.
Before it was over with. So, took the thing back up and had another motor put in it. This thing is 12-to-1 compression right now, which is a little more reasonable.
Yeah, a little bit better.
So I'm figuring it's making 635 at the wheels, and it's still scarier than hell. It's real scary.
Does he do anything with some forced induction, like put a supercharger on it or anything? He won't do any of that?
He doesn't. He has one way he builds these things, and he bores them. He's got a rotating assembly that he puts in them. The rotating assembly in that car is it's billet steel, crankshaft, rods, forged steel pistons, forged aluminum pistons, and it's stupid. It's real stupid.
I was hoping you were going to drive it down.
I will next time.
Okay.
I don't trust it yet.
Yeah.
It's a BMW. And if you trust your BMW, you just hadn't owned it long enough.
Well, I do appreciate that you do like German cars, because I had an 06 twin turbo Porsche. And
God Almighty!
Yeah, I love that thing.
911.
Yeah, 911. And actually, when I was,
I bet that was.
I think
that thing turbo's nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, I bought my dad when I got to the NFL. I think when I got my second contract, it was like an 02 or an 03 twin turbo. Bought him, and he actually drove it until he passed away. And I love Porsches, and I always regret. When I was 24, I bought my first Porsche. Right. It was a seal gray 911 Carrera, and I went in there looking because I wanted an air cooled one, and I was young. I didn't know. I went in and I told the guy what I wanted. I wanted what was it, 997? That might have
been the last year of the air cooled.
It would have been. I was looking for, or the guy had I think it was a 97 or a 98. 99 was the first year of the liquid cooled. Mm-hmm. So I went in to go look at it, and the salesman talked me out of it. You don't want that old junk, and I ended up buying it, and I regret. It was a black on black 97 air cooled turbo with a tail.
That's a Porsche.
And I should have fucking bought it. And I periodically
was that a 3-liter flat six?
Yeah. And they
go
for a
4-liter flat six.
Those go for like $250,000 now. And I think
I love you said that. I took mine down. There is a good Porsche dealership in Plano.
Okay.
Plano Porsche is a good Porsche dealer. They've got mechanics that know what the fuck is going on. And I got hooked up with one of their mechanics, and I took this car down to there. I had some codes I wanted him to look at, the lifter problems and stuff. This guy's a genius. I mean, a genius. His name is John Gladwell, and he's a good guy, and he knows what the fuck he's talking about. So I took this car down there, and I went, and he had it. He kept it for 3 or 4 weeks, and it's fine. This guy's thinking about this, and he's calling me. He'll start working on it. I'll get 3 phone calls from him. Mm-hmm. Here, I found this. What do you want to do? Here's this other deal. What do you want to do? What do you think we'll do about this deal here? I mean, I've never been treated like that by a mechanic before.
Yeah.
So I went down there to pick the damn thing up, and parked under the canopy is I believe it was a 1966, the little coupe. Yeah. I don't know what the numbers were on this.
Well, I think they had like, they were 911s, but they might have been 912s. If it was a turbo, it'd be like a 930.
This is 60. This was not a turbo.
No, this would have been like 911s. I think they just called them 911s, but then they had 912s, which was, I think, was a slightly
might have been the 6 version, the 6-cylinder. I don't know. But this thing is perfect. I mean, this is perfect. It's red, pure red.
Yeah, guards red.
And there's not there. The thing is absolutely stock. And this is like a 4-cylinder. This is a flat 4.
Yeah, yeah.
Old boxer motor.
Yeah.
This goddamn thing's a flat 4. And I said, I'm just in there shooting the shit with the guys, and I said, how many $1 million is that car worth out there? And he said, 1.6.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And it was an executive,
For Porsche.
airline executive. No, it was,
Yeah.
big guy in Dallas. Brought it over there just to have it serviced.
So
Can you imagine driving a $1.6 million car on the highway to the dealership to have it? I guess if you got that kind of money, it's not a big deal. But I mean,
so we there I have a Shelby. I have a '68 GT500.
68.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, GT500 numbers matching, and it's up in my shop.
I had an 11 GT500 Shelby GT500, and I hated the damn thing. I was scared of that car.
I'm not a fan of Fords after probably about 69 or 70. But there was we went to a vintage race, and there was a guy there that was racing a 65 GT350, the original Shelby.
Right.
And the guy had
Shelby American.
The guy had bought it new.
Right.
He had bought it new from Shelby, and he basically went out and he raced it, and then went back when still Shelby America was in El Segundo in California or in Venice, wherever they were, and bought all the replacement panels if you ever racked it up, and you could go in and physically buy all the pieces. So he had collected all the parts to rebuild it, all the NOS stuff, if he ever racked it up. And the guy was like, it's still, I think he paid, the sticker on it was like $4,200 or whatever he paid. And he's like, and now all of a sudden this thing was like, one of the GTRs, or I don't know what the deal, but it was like one of the original ones, picked it up from Shelby. I mean, the story was like one owner. I mean, that's a multi-million dollar car.
Right.
And the guy's like, if I break, if I smack it up, I got all the parts to fix it, and I still enjoy it. And it was still
that's the way to do it.
Oh yeah,
God damn, that's the way to do it.
So take it a step further, where I grew up in Southern California was in Palos Verdes, Torrance area, and right down on the other side where Torrance Airport is, there's a guy named Mike McCluskey who is like the Shelby restoration guy for the Cobras. Has all the original bucks in there. And so when we were kids, there was a little like kind of general store we'd ride our bikes to. We used to see Cobras all the time. And it wasn't until years later where I had this GTO Judge convertible that a guy bought from me. And I ended up, when he went to buy the car, he's like, hey, I got to go check out this guy, Mike McCluskey. And we drove to his shop at Torrance Airport, which was right near the In-N-Out Burger we used to go to. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this car, and I remember seeing these cars as little kids. And his shop is literally at Torrance Airport, has all the original bucks. I mean, anybody who has an original car brings it to him to restore, and I got a chance to see him. And the saddest day was when I realized I couldn't sit in the car in those original Cobras. I'd always wanted
too
one.
Fucking small.
Too small. So
God,
I had a 67. I had a 67 GT500, and a guy bought it, and then I have a 68 that I still got to put the motor back in, but I got that in my shop. I have dude, for some reason I have always loved Porsches. And I have always hunted that like last 1 or 2 years of that air-cooled turbo, and all in another one. But
eventually you'll find one of the damn things.
But I also remember we live in Texas. I kind of live on a dirt road as you were driving in.
Right.
I got gravel.
It's hard on air-cooled shit.
Yeah, and it's hot as fuck.
You got to have to change filters all the time.
And I mean, when you live in Southern California or Monterey in California, where it doesn't get over 80 degrees and you're at the ocean, they run great. Here in Texas, it was 111 degrees in the shop yesterday when we were training. I went up in the gym, and it's fucking part of the deal.
Yeah, it's part of being here. You got to be tougher in the middle of the country.
So what's your legacy?
Books. I don't have any kids, but I got books, and I've got hundreds of thousands of people that are trained with our methods, and that have nothing but good stuff to say about how we've helped them. I've got letters up all over the gym, and that's my legacy, and I'm proud of it. I really am. I've had a lot of help along the way, but we started putting these books together in 2004, and every time we have an opportunity, we add to the body of thought, and we've I think we've helped a lot of people get strong, and
Does it feel lonely, just standing on your tower, just screaming out about the message of strength?
No, I don't take it personally. I understand about inertia. If you're a famous strength coach and you've got your whole deal centered around something stupid like rate of force development or something like that, you're not going to stop saying rate of force development and start saying 5 pounds of workout. You're just not going to do it because it's made you money, and this is where you built your tent, and this is probably where you'll stay. And I don't, everybody is entitled to be wrong.
But so here's the thing, like, everything has context. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, and this is what I always thought was amazing, where all of a sudden, people want to cast stones towards starting strength. And I always go back to, who's the population you're training? All of a sudden, everybody wants to think that, like, because this guy trains NFL athletes, he must know about training bodybuilding in here.
Right.
And like, I see these people that are these generalist strength coaches, but they're talking about hypertrophy. I had a interesting conversation with Paul Carter about this. He trains hypertrophy, and it's like, women and glutes, and he's kind of in this market. And he tells people, when they ask him, like, hey, can I use this for performance? He's like, no, go see John, a power athlete. He's like, that's not my market.
Right.
And like,
at least he understands.
Yeah, but even when I had people come to us, I was like, hey, you know what? Like, programs that we have that are hypertrophy based are still going to be based in kind of performance and athleticism. It's what we do.
Right.
Like, all of a sudden, you're not going to see me put out like a peach glute program for women. Like, not that it wouldn't be a seller, but I just think that everybody is kind of in this, like, because you train people and people are getting better, there's this idea where it's this kind of homogenous deal, and it's not.
No.
It's very segmented.
If you don't understand that powerlifting and bodybuilding and Olympic weightlifting and strongman are not the same thing as strength training that we do, then you're going to think that because I don't send people to the IPF worlds that I don't know what I'm doing. But I don't want to send anybody to the IPF worlds. That's not my business. How many people get to go to the IPF worlds? 100? I don't care about 100 people. I care about 100,000 people.
Yeah.
I'm not involved in this for competitive sports. That's not our demographic.
Yeah.
We deal with regular human beings who benefit by being stronger than they are right now.
Well, it's also what drives me crazy is where all of a sudden, because somebody coaches powerlifters, they somehow think that, like, because they can coach powerlifters, that there's some transference to athletes.
Yes.
And I'm like,
no, not the same thing. And I used to think that for a long time. This is one of the hundreds of things I had wrong for years. It's not the same thing. Powerlifting is a specific sport. And you don't have to be explosive.
No.
Be a good powerlifter. You don't have to have a 35-inch vertical to be a good powerlifter. Yeah. It helps, but it's certainly not what you're displaying under a bar. That's not powerlifting. The name is wrong. It's not got anything to do with power. It's strength.
Yeah.
And no, I don't deal with athletic specialties. I deal with general strength. Now, it happens to be the case that athletics should begin with general strength.
Yeah.
And as a result, what we do is applicable to all of those people. But once they get past a certain point, I don't deal with them anymore.
Yeah.
But the problem is none of them realize that. None of them realize that the first 9 months of preparation for any sport should be the linear progression where you add 5 pounds to your squat.
And what we call it is the base level of strength.
Right.
And we found that if you establish this base level of strength, regardless of what you do going forward, if you get injured, you will always return back to this base level of strength.
Right.
So, I mean, it's pretty much like basically you're making a deposit in the bank.
Right.
And that money will continue to be there if you ever need it.
That's your nest egg.
And the problem is if athletes try to circumvent it and jump into a bunch of crazy shit and they don't create their base level of strength, they never have that money to go back to.
Exactly.
And then they spend an entire lifetime chasing it and never having the durability and the strength.
And never even understanding why they don't.
Yeah.
They don't understand. Look, if you had a 495 deadlift, we wouldn't be having this conversation about your back. You know, we wouldn't have to rehab your back because your back would never have been hurt. You know, if you don't press 250 overhead, yeah, your shoulders are vulnerable because 250 overhead for a good athlete is not a big press. That's baseline strength. Everybody ought to do that. Everybody ought to have a 250 press, 325 bench, 450 squat, 5 1/4 deadlift. Everybody that's playing sports.
I saw a statistic the other day that if you can bench over 225, you're like in the 0.01% of the population.
It's unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of laughed, and I was like, "Shit, man! Like that can't be real." But then you realize, like, there's just, we've effectively surrounded ourselves with like-minded individuals where we think this is just part of the deal. It's kind of the bubble I lived in the NFL, and I'm okay with that. And the more people we can pull into our circle and try to infect with the belief, like Greg Glassman, you virally infected the world into thinking it was better to be strong than elite. I'm more than happy to fucking shoulder that one.
I gladly accept that accusation.
Yeah, I was like, done. I'll take that one.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
That's all I've got. You've exhausted my ass today. We'll do it again, though. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, no, I'll take a drive up. I owe you a visit and come up and do your Starting Strength podcast.
Absolutely. We'll do it at my place next time.
Awesome.
And we'll just sit down and just talk. This is fun. And I think people listen to us appreciate the perspective from my 47 years of coaching and your lifetime spent actually playing at the elite level. They don't have access to that everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Awesome. Well, I know people want to get a hold of you. Starting Strength and
StartingStrength.com. That's where I am.
Yeah, it's easy to find.
StartingStrength.com. Easy to find.
Books on Amazon.
Books on Amazon. Books at our website. You get them faster from us than Amazon.
Oh, I like that.
Yep. Get them faster.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for making the trip.
John, I love you, buddy.
Yes, sir. I love you too.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Power Athlete Radio.
This episode of Power Athlete Radio is powered by Train Heroic, the most immersive strength training app experience on the market.
We've built our online training business by partnering with Train Heroic and helping us deliver all of our world-class training programs like Jack Street, Field Strong, and Grindstone. To learn which Power Athlete training program best suits your goals, head to powerathletehq.com/training.
And if you're a coach looking to build a business with the best tech and training, go to trainheroic.co/powerathletehq.